Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Friday, November the 24th, 2023. In this video, I want to talk about the car exploding on the Rainbow Bridge, which happened on Wednesday. This was, I believe, a white Bentley going really fast, crossing this bridge, which is the border between Canada and the United States. So being a border, it's quite a sensitive area. And, you know, when this explosion first happened, there was speculation that it might be connected with terrorism, but now it's just seen as being an accident caused by reckless driving. At least that's what the news is telling us. So I wanted to just look at the chart of this accident or whatever else it was. Just see if there's anything interesting there, because that is something that astrologers do, or at least used to do. Is just look at the chart of events and, you know, really see if we can see anything astrological there, because, you know, what we're trying to do here is see astrology at work. Now, there's no way that you could have predicted this kind of event. I mean, I know 2 people were killed, but it's not a major event. You know, when there's so much other stuff going on in the world, there are accidents happening all the time. The reason this accident has got so much publicity is because it happened on a border, but I'm afraid these things are happening all the time, and one could indeed, for any accident, look at the time in which the accident happened, and see if this really fits. Although I suppose this accident is because it's getting a lot of attention, maybe one would have expected the astrology to show up more than other motor accidents. Other motor accidents which could be just as tragic, because, I mean, 2 people are dead as far as I understand. So I want to look at that. I also want to look at the chart of the Rainbow Bridge. So this bridge, which is, I think, pretty close to Niagara Falls, was opened on November the 1st, 1941. So we have got a chart there. I looked around for the actual time of the opening ceremony, and I just couldn't find anything. So I went for noon. So I'll be looking at that chart as well. But it's going to be a quick video. I mean, I don't really have a huge amount to say about these events. Anyway, so before I do that, I want to look at the astrology and the I Ching for today, which is Friday, November the 24th, 2023. So here we go. And I suppose the big news today, the important event, is that Mars has gone into Sagittarius. Now, I need to qualify that. Mars goes into Sagittarius today at 10:15 a.m. London time. So on Friday, 10:15 a.m. in London, Mars goes into Sagittarius. If you're in Paris, Berlin, it will be 11:15 a.m. If you're in New York, 5:15 in the morning. If you're in Los Angeles, 2:15 in the morning. In other words, if you're in the Americas, Mars is pretty much in Sagittarius all day. If you're in London, most of the day, from the sort of the morning, 10:15 in the morning onwards. If you're in Australia or New Zealand, then you're not going to feel this until the evening. And so for you, if you are in Australasia, then you know that is an evening event. And so for most of the day, Mars is going to be in Scorpio. Now there is another sign change. The moon goes into Taurus. So at the moment we've got a lot of fire in this horoscope. You can see that Moon in Aries, Sun, Mars, Mercury in Sagittarius, but the Moon is in late Aries. It's making a square to Pluto. So really the Moon is void of course, because the Moon has made its last major aspect to a traditional planet. Pluto is not a traditional planet before leaving the sign. And so, the Moon is going nowhere. And so until the Moon goes into Taurus, it may be inadvisable to start anything that's important, because the Moon is void, it's going nowhere. So the question is, when does Moon go into Taurus? Well, in London, it goes into Taurus at 20:29, around 8:30 in the evening. So if you're in Western Europe, there's really not much time to take advantage of the Moon going into Taurus. If you're in Asia, Australasia, no, it goes into Taurus tomorrow. On the other hand, if you're in New York, Moon goes into Taurus at 3:29 in the afternoon. If you're in Los Angeles, it's 12:30 in the afternoon, around lunchtime. So in the Americas, you are going to feel this change as the Moon moves from Aries into Taurus. And I think, this move is going to be quite good for you in the Americas, because the Moon, it makes a sextile to Saturn. And Saturn itself is not in a bad position because it's in mutual reception to Venus by exaltation. And then it starts moving towards a conjunction with Jupiter. So, yeah, if you are in the Americas and you want to start something, then, yeah, consider it. Depends where you are. You're in New York, after around 3:30 in the afternoon. In West Coast, California, Washington State, Oregon, you can do it earlier, around 12:30 in the afternoon. So there are these two sign changes, which not all of you are going to feel. If you're in Australasia, you're not going to feel these sign changes really at all. At least, okay, you might feel Mars moving into Sagittarius, in the evening, but it's probably going to be something you're going to really experience tomorrow, Saturday. Okay, so those are the sign changes. What else is going on? I suppose the main thing is that there's Mercury, and it is making an 150-degree aspect to Uranus. The 150-degree aspect, the quincunx, is not particularly fortunate. And we might find ourselves saying things that we don't mean to say. We're trying to communicate the right message, but poor Mercury in Sagittarius does get a bit confused because Mercury doesn't really work very well in Sagittarius. So when it's making its quincunx to Uranus, we could say all sorts of stuff, complete nonsense perhaps, and we might jump to the wrong conclusion. So be careful. Anything to do with making up your mind, making decisions, just think it through. Do you really know do you really know what's going on? And if you've reached a conclusion, it's possible that you have reached this conclusion too quickly, and perhaps you've overinterpreted particular facts. Okay, so that's the astrology for today, and I now want to move to the I Ching. No, not the I Ching. I'm firstly going to do my forecast for the 12 signs. So these are my forecasts for the 12 signs for today, which is Friday, November the 24th, 2023. Aries, it's a time to take the lead because you know what needs to be done, and your instincts about the overall situation are largely correct. And with Mars now in Sagittarius, your ability to take fast action is becoming obvious. At the same time, fears from the past are starting to recede. But when the moment arrives for action, you mustn't delay. Taurus, things are starting to move your way, but it is taking time. There are delays, and other people's attitude may be less than helpful. But don't worry, you're building up your reserves, and your eventual timing will be perfect. Just don't get distracted by minor details that are completely unimportant. Gemini, it's easy to think about yourself, to put your own creativity at the center of the universe. That's great, but at the moment, the social dimension can't be ignored. You have to consider other people's creative self-expression. And if other people can't be creative, then your own creativity might not come to much. Cancer, you and someone else don't see eye to eye. You have different priorities, and there may be a power struggle. Such difficulties could occur anywhere, but they are most likely to take place in your working environment. But don't worry, Cancerians usually get their way, and if you project outwards rather than inwards, everything should be fine. Leo, some of the pressure is starting to ease, but you're not as free as you'd like to be. There are clear obligations that need to be honoured, and for this you need to make time and space. But you do have surplus energy, and you need to find an outlet for it, which means that restriction, for the sake of restriction, should never be tolerated. Virgo, you'd like everything to be calm and above board, but today there are some irritants. At home, it may be surprisingly difficult to relax, perhaps because people who should know better are behaving in a very annoying way. And really, for the rest of 2023, you should be striving to make your home life less complicated. And perhaps you have to be more assertive. Libra, you have your own way of doing things, and as far as you're concerned, that's fine. But you have to consider other people's point of view and understand that there are different standards and different preferences. As a Libran, you should be able to comprehend all this and do things that meets everyone's approval. It's just the way it is right now. Maybe later you can be a bit more self-centered, and I know Librans, they do like to think of other people, and that's great. Just do that. It should be fine. Scorpio, Mars, your ruler, is now in Sagittarius. You're starting to see the world in a different and more expansive way. You're aware of new opportunities, and you're prepared to take risks that in the past you would never have taken. But there's no need to take these risks. Let the world come to you, and there's certainly no need to force the pace. Sagittarius, Mars is now in your star sign. It's certainly an energizing influence, and you'll be looking for action. However, there's a danger that you act first and think later, getting yourself into situations that are difficult to get out of. Still, there are many opportunities for having fun, which don't require huge amounts of risk. Stay safe and enjoy yourself. Capricorn, you want to be in control, and in most cases you will get your way. And the more familiar you are with the situation, the easier it will be to assert yourself. But there is a danger that you're too inflexible, that you put too much emphasis on personal power. Everyone needs room to express themselves. Aquarius, you don't really want to fit in. You want to be yourself to the point where you get a reaction. I suppose some people can't handle the truth and they want to steer clear of controversy. And unless they get out of your way, there could be a real scene. But maybe you can be yourself without causing a minor earthquake. A little bit of diplomacy goes a long way. Pisces. There are now 3 planets in Sagittarius: the Sun, Mercury and Mars. For you, the sign Sagittarius has a lot to do with career, and now might be a chance to make a big impression. Not only have you got the energy, but you've also got the self-discipline. Think about the message you want to present to the wider world. Okay, so now I want to look at the I Ching. So, as always, I ask the question, what is Friday going to be like for people watching this video? What is Friday going to be like for you? Because you are watching this video. Okay, so it's fairly straightforward. I got a single hexagram and it doesn't move. And it's simply this. Hexagram 37, the family. I suppose if you're in America, then, or United States, sort of yesterday was Thanksgiving. So today, it's often a holiday. People, extension of a Thanksgiving. So for many Americans, 37 is just a family. It's just obvious. Being with the family, spending more time than usual with the family. That is the most simple way of looking at it. Even if you're not in America, I think today the family is going to be important. There's just more. You have more to do with the family than usual. Now, the family, it doesn't necessarily have to be your relatives. The Wilhelm translation of the I Ching, it says the family, but in parentheses it says, I think, the clan. So whoever your group is, whoever the people you hang out with, your people, whatever they might be. I suppose it could be, I don't know, people who support your favorite football club, soccer club, or something like that. That could be the family. But on a more profound level, we have to remember that the I Ching is an ancient Chinese oracle. And not speaking Chinese, not particularly, and certainly not having any knowledge of classical Chinese, it's not for me to mess with the text that I read, which is in translation. I just have to take that text. It's not, I can't really mess with the translation because I don't know Chinese. And if I were to try to mess with an English translation, I'd be messing with the I Ching. That's not a good thing to do. But the I Ching is quite Confucian, and it sees the family as the bedrock of society, and the way you have the family is a hierarchical thing. And society should also be hierarchical from the Confucian perspective. You have in the family, people have their roles. It's traditionally, you would have the father at the head of the pyramid, and then you'd have the mother and the first son, second son, first daughter, second daughter. All of this kind of thing. I don't really want to emphasize the gender aspect of it. Every family is a hierarchy, and I don't mean hierarchy in a negative sense. It should have a structure, respect, people knowing their place. And so the advice here is to understand one's place. It may not be one's place to give orders. It may be one's place to just create stability, to make sure that the family structure is able to maintain itself, and that the sort of rituals and chores going on within the family are all carried out, and everyone knows their place. So that is another way of looking at it. It's certainly not it's not a day for rebellion. It's just a day for doing one's duty within whatever group one is associated with, whether it's a family, whether it's a clan, whether it's a group of friends. I mean, maybe a group of friends sharing a house, if they're students or whatever they are. That's what today is about. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the astrology of this explosion on Wednesday, which happened on the 22nd, didn't it? So let's go back and have a look at this. As far as this picture on the top right, this is just a picture, I think, of the sort of a customs terminal and on the bridge, and the arrow, that's, you can see, and I don't know whether if you look, you can see that's a car. It just seemed to just take off. I hadn't really seen it before. It just actually took off, and it was an expensive car. I think it was a white Bentley. I mean, and the two people were killed. So when you think of an accident, whenever I think of an accident, earthquake, what do you think of? What do you expect to see in an earthquake? Just think about that. Think about that for a couple of seconds. Earthquake. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of an earthquake is Uranus on the IC. That's the classic accident signature. And indeed, at the time of this accident, I got 11:22 a.m. on November the 22nd, 2023. A lot of twos in that. If you're into numerology, maybe you find that interesting. 22 twos, 11:22. I'm not really into numerology, but you can't miss all those twos. So there is the IC, and there it is. There is Uranus exactly on the IC. The IC at 11:22 is 2017 Taurus, and Uranus is at 2042 Taurus. And so clear signature of an accident. I should make a point here that ideally one should use as fewer points as possible in astrology. When one's doing a chart, always try to use as little as possible, because if you use too much, if you use tons of asteroids, for example, you might not be able to see things anymore, and you might lose a crucial signature. And here you can see Uranus is on the IC, and if you'd thrown 50 asteroids into that chart, it would just be lost in the mess. So there's Uranus on the IC, quite clear. Remember when the Hiroshima bombing, when the bomb left the plane, Uranus was exactly on the IC. So yeah, Uranus on the IC-MC axis, really something to really look at, and Pluto is there as well. So that's the main thing. We can see that there was a Sun-Mars conjunction coming up. The Sun had just gone into Sagittarius. very shortly before the accident, and it was making a square to Saturn. But the thing is that Sun-Saturn square is just happening all over the world. What makes it special? What makes it special to that bridge? Why did it happen there? Well, maybe it happened there because Uranus was exactly on the IC. I mean, I kind of see accidents like this as like when you've got a planetary build-up, it's like you've got a huge amount of tension building up, and the burst has to happen somewhere. And Uranus on the IC, the burst happened around that bridge. Who knows why this person was driving so fast in a Bentley, so fast I think the car actually took off. I don't know, but okay, Sun-Mars, having a sort of wide Sun-Mars conjunction, and Saturn square that Sun-Mars. That sort of fits, doesn't it? I think. Indeed, the Sun is actually sort of 45 degrees from the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So, Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint, certainly that gives an idea of death. Jupiter is on the ascendant mid-heaven midpoint. Now, the complete hindsight here. It's because I know that there was a fatal car accident. You're not going to be able to read this before it happens with Jupiter on the ascendant mid-heaven midpoint. But you see, there is the ascendant, there's the mid-heaven, there's the ascendant, there's the IC. You can see that the midpoint of the two is around 22 Pisces, and so Jupiter is 45 degrees from the ascendant mid-heaven midpoint. So Jupiter, I suppose, is about excessive behavior. Just being excessive, so that might fit, and certainly driving like that is, I suppose, the worst aspect of Jupiter. Now, I'm just going to be a complete hypocrite now. Why not? Having just said that one should not clutter the chart with loads of asteroids and that kind of stuff. I'm going to go and clutter the chart with hypothetical planets just for fun. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's my video. I can be a hypocrite if I want, but okay, so let's do that. Let's clutter the chart with hypothetical planets. I'm going to put eight planets which don't even exist. At least asteroids exist. I mean, hypothetical planets for trans-Neptunians, Vitta's trans-Neptunians, they don't even exist. But what I wanted to just point out is the hypothetical planet Zeus. Right there, conjunct, square the midheaven, in a very prominent place in the chart. So there's the midheaven at 2439 Capricorn. Zeus is the planet of explosions and gunshots. It's a very military, it's actually quite a military hypothetical planet. Certainly if this was a terrorist action, Zeus would certainly fit. But explosions certainly fits with Zeus. We saw those huge fireballs. That would be very Zeus. So you can see that Zeus is very tightly conjunct the South Node, and it's square the ascendant. And it's so. I mean, I think that might tell us something about the nature of this accident. Now, to defend myself from using a hypothetical planet, having just said I don't like to use asteroids, is that I'm using very tight orbs, and I'm looking at something which is really prominent, very prominent. You've got to be really careful using them. I do actually feel comfortable using Zeus conjunct the south node, because square the ascendant, because I'm looking at a build-up. It's not just Zeus happens to be there, it happens to be conjunct the south node and it's square the ascendant. And that's important because we want to know what is special about what's special about that moment of the accident. So that's let me get rid of the hypothetical planets. Okay, so now another thing to bear in mind about this chart, is that when you're looking at event charts like this, it's always a good idea to look at something else, like the previous new moon, for example. So there was a new moon on November the 13th. This new moon is set for the Rainbow Bridge, November 2023. So yeah, there was this new moon, and it was quite a powerful new moon, which I certainly would have associated with accidents. What I wanted to do was compare the two charts. So in the inner wheel, I've got the chart of the accident at 11:22 a.m. Outer wheel, I've got the chart of that new moon on November the 13th. So this new moon took place at 2044 Scorpio. Okay, 2044 Scorpio. The midheaven of the accident was 2017 Scorpio. So the midheaven at the moment of the accident was right on the new moon, and this new moon was opposition Uranus. So this new moon, 2044 Scorpio, opposition Uranus in Taurus at 21.5 Taurus, was bang on the ascendant midheaven axis of the accident, so of this explosion. So I think that really picked it up extremely well. Now, there's no way we're going to be able to have predicted this accident beforehand. What we're doing is we're looking at an event to just watch astrology work. We're like being a spectator. We're just seeing how astrology works. And I think that's really powerful. Also, at the time of a full moon, the full moon had its midheaven was at 20. The midheaven at the full moon set for the Rainbow Bridge was 23.8 Cancer, and then we had 24.39 Cancer on the seventh house cusp of the accident. So the descendant of the accident was conjunct the midheaven of the previous new moon. So I think that illustrates really nicely the way you can look at a new moon, and then you can look at an event immediately afterwards, and it really, there's some amazing context there. I think that's really powerful. It's a good. I think that's a good demonstration of astrology working. I just wanted to finish by looking at the chart of the Rainbow Bridge. Rainbow Bridge was opened November the 1st, 1941. As I said, I don't know what time. So you can ignore I'm afraid, the ascendant on the midheaven. I've gone for noon. you can ignore the ascendant and the midheaven. So is there anything going on? Well, there is kind of something going on. Let me just show you what sort of transits this chart. This was November the 1st, 1941. So it was opened 83 years ago. So there was this Sun-Mars conjunction going on at the outer wheel as the accident, a Sun-Mars conjunction. And look at Mars. Mars is at 2846 Scorpio, and Uranus. There was a Saturn-Uranus conjunction at the time of the opening of this bridge. I mean, that's kind of not surprising. We should remember November the 1st, 1941. This bridge was opened, 5 weeks before Pearl Harbor. So it was sort of, certainly for the Canadians, they were at war with Germany. America was just about to enter war with Germany. So this Saturn-Uranus conjunction sort of reflects all the turmoil going on in the world. So this was the environment in which this bridge was opened. And so the fact that it was a Second World War event, I mean, it happened during the Second World War, at least for the Canadians, and the US was on the brink of entering the war. So that's the Saturn-Uranus conjunction. And Mars at 28 Scorpio was actually picking up this Saturn-Uranus conjunction. And the Sun had just gone past Uranus. So Mars was opposition Uranus. So there was a connection there. I do understand that it's, if one looks hard enough, one can always find a connection. I'm not really making a big deal about it. I think about the Uranus at the time of the being transited at the time of the accident. I think it's more important the fact that this full moon on November the 13th. Sun Moon opposition Uranus was right on the midheaven, hitting it completely exactly, and this midheaven at the time of the accident was picking up on the full moon, on the new moon. Sorry, not the full moon, the new moon, just a week or two before it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about the explosion. It's not about this accident. In a way, I mean, I'm sorry 2 people were killed. It was not a big event in terms of what else is happening in the world. But even this relatively minor event, we can actually find an astrological signature for it. Okay, so I hope you found that interesting and perhaps of some use when you look at events that you find. Always set up a chart and just see what else was happening, and try not to put in too many points, because you need to be too many factors, because you want some clarity in the chart, if possible. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.